and welcome to the Ohio Arts Council's Rife Gallery. This is the Biennial Juried Exhibition's DIY Ekphrastic Writing Workshop. Today we are going to explore ekphrastic poetry as an extension of the exhibition, while our facilitator, poet Rikki Santer, will take you through her prompts inspired by the exhibition. Please note you are welcome and encouraged to pause the video and work at your own pace. All right, welcome Rikki.
Thank you, Kat. It's such an honor being here and also the opportunity to interact with the stunning work in the 2025 Biennial show. I want to start with a quote that I hope inspires you from J.D. McCarthy from his book Poets on Painters. He wrote, "The poets bring to their task a fresh eye and a freshened language vivid with nuance and color and force, as when Frank O'Hara calls Jackson Pollock's number 12 from 1952, quote, a big, brassy gigolo of a painting. Image evokes image." And I've presented to you that particular painting that Frank O'Hara was responding to. And it's very dense, but boy, he was able to extract an image that's really stunning. The term ekphrasis is derived from the Greek words ek, meaning out, and phrasis, meaning speak or declare. And so you can think of ekphrasis as a conversation a writer has with the work of art. So what is the ekphrastic approach to art? Well, you can approach it from the outside. Objectively, the speaker is removed, or from the inside, where you become very subjective and imaginative and emotional. In KGB's Prison, which is the title of this photograph, Deborah Orloff, the photographer, incorporates damaged family photos to serve as a metaphor for the unreliability of memory and the experience of trying to access the lost history of her Jewish ancestors who fled Ukraine during the Russian pogroms. So if you would respond to this from the outside, you could consider the exterior forces affecting these subjects and contrast between the joyful tone of the people dancing with the action of the artwork's title, which references KGB Prison. Or you can respond from the inside. You could consider and imagine the perspective of one of the subjects in the photograph. So when you take this ekphrastic approach, you can take it from the outside or the inside. So what do ekphrastic poems do? Well, they explore visual art, and there's quite a variety of interpretations of visual art, from paintings to sculpture to photographs to film to music, performing art, dance, etc. You can approach it as a description with vivid imagery and detail, and or respond intellectually and emotionally, and or address the work of art, the characters, the artists, the audiences, the viewers, yourself. So here's what sculptor Judith Gervu wrote about her piece, Great Lakes Geology and History, which you're looking at right now on the screen. She wrote, it offers tactile experiences contrasting the watery kiln glass to the dense textured lost wax cast bronze geologic layers. It offers information on lake life and on the fossils that are part of the Great Lakes region's geology. There are hints referring to indigenous peoples who inhabited the region and thrived before the European conquest, and a few sad reminders of how that conquest was accomplished. So what I want you to see is there's much grist here for responding ekphrastically to her piece. So let's practice interpreting artwork. This piece called Skybound Over Steel by Rachel Menser. Note that she uses discarded materials such as packaging and debris. So I have a list of questions there that you can consider when you're trying to interpret an artwork? What are the first words that come to mind? What is happening in the artwork? What is the artwork subject? Try to vividly describe the mood of the artwork. Be attentive to sensory details, smells, feeling, etc. How does this artwork connect to your experience? And what are you drawn to? And think about the 7 elements of art: line, shape, form, space, value, texture, and of course, color. And then after you've responded to the artwork and recorded things that you've observed, try to summarize the main idea or theme or argument of the artwork. I really subscribe to the idea that everything is an argument. All right, so I have some prompts here for you. Again, it was so hard to select several pieces for prompts because the work in this show is so exquisite, but let's give it a shot. This is called Bittersweet by Rachel Lineman. And in this piece, Rachel Lineman uses food as a symbol of her Appalachian upbringing, incorporating found objects to represent the financial struggle of blue-collar labor and to represent longing for a life of opulence, though through costume jewelry, chrome, nickel, steel cutlery covered with gold and dollars transformed into butterflies, all beneath a vintage cake stand, a complex piece. So your prompt is think about what foods or dishes would you serve from your cake stand to represent your relationship with family and community. How has food represented joy and or hardship in your life? The second prompt is inspired by Alicia Franz, The House Always Wins. The backstory of this piece is quite fascinating, and it's very, very large. According to the artist, she incorporated 178 $30 Ohio lottery tickets, totaling $5,340. And artist Alicia Front writes that her husband discovered that his father, who had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, had accumulated boxes of spent scratch-off lottery tickets. She writes that this tragedy represented, quote, all the money my father-in-law so carefully saved to care for himself and his wife for their final years, now gone. So you have 2 prompts here to choose from, or you may want to fuse them. First prompt is write about the role of luck, whether you had it or not in your life, or write about what you will be leaving your family, either concrete objects or abstract concepts, and how those elements represent your legacy. Okay. And now let's go to prompt 3. This piece was inspired by The Day It Rained Amber by Dragana Cernjak. And in her artist statement, she writes that in her painting, she tried to, quote, suspend meaning for a deeper experience of time and presence with a sense of fleeting moments from everyday environments. So your prompt for this one is to play with her title, The Day It Rained, but let's put a blank there. And please try to replace the last word in her title with your own subject. It could be a concrete object or an abstract concept, literal or metaphorical. But either way, walk into the world of your imagination and recreate the experience of your day when it rained something unexpected and phenomenal. And our last prompt is inspired by this piece by Jessica Wolf. The title of her sculpture is a term that refers to the individual subjective and conscious moments of experience, such as the redness of tomato or the pain of headache or the taste of chocolate, which is so hard to describe. They are the what it's like aspect of mental states that make them distinct, representing the phenomenal qualities of perception, feeling, and sensation from a personal first person perspective. So discs suspended from her piece display excerpts from journals, personal notes, celestial images, and maps, all in a dangling interplay with shadows projected from a light above. So in this prompt, I'd like you to think about what lives in the shadows of your life. What are the experiences that have shaped your personal first person perspective as you have moved through your time on this planet? Try to incorporate sensory details to relate what you've experienced. So now it's time to reflect. Raymond Carver, a short story writer, once said, they shouldn't call it writing, they should call it rewriting. And as a teacher of writing, I always emphasize revision. Myself as a poet, I'm always revising my work time and time again. Revision is such a critical component to the art of writing. So now that you've drafted your responses to some of the artwork from the biennial show through these prompts, here are a few suggestions for going back and making your piece stronger and more potent. For instance, you can sharpen your language. Within your poems, look for places where verbs can be more vivid or forceful, and nouns could be more specific and precise. And I've given you a couple examples. Instead of she said, she whispered, or she shouted, or she roared. There's a different resonance of those with those verbs. Or a noun, a house. Could you be more specific? Is it a cottage? Is it a brownstone? Is it a hovel? Also, think about transforming dull, abstract statements into vivid sensory pictures with concrete imagery. An example, the waiting room was unpleasant. Okay, that's okay, but look how with concrete language you can really make it come alive. The waiting room was cold, antiseptic smelling, and crowded with sick people who were coughing, groaning, or crying. Don't you feel you're really there? Another way to sharpen your language is to remove words that are redundant or ineffective and don't contribute information or overload or dilute emotional impact. And I have some examples there. For instance, at the present time now, final conclusion. I was very sad. I was devastated. I know when I'm writing early drafts, sometimes I go back to make my language more precise, and I've overwritten with some phrases. So experiment with the speaker of the poem is another way that you can sharpen your language, voice of the poem. You might have written in third person. Maybe it's more effective in first or second. I want to leave you with a quote in closing that I think, I hope represents your experience in this workshop. John Hollander, a poet, wrote this of Ekphrasis. Our conceptions expand and we become part of what we behold. I hope you experienced that dynamic today, and I want to thank Kat and all the stunning artists in the 2025 Biennial for such a wonderful experience. Thank you for this opportunity for me to lead you through responding to the work.
Thank you again for joining us for this DIY ekphrastic writing workshop led by Rikki Santer as a part of our programming for the 2025 Biennial Juried exhibition. A special thank you to Rikki for the generosity of her time and talent, to our jurors, and the other participating artists, as well as the Ohio Arts Council's board, the Ohio legislature, and the governor, all who support the Ohio Arts Council, this great space, and of course, Ohio artists. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.